Congress caught in the crossfire. Implosion after Shashi's Sindoor stand.
Operation Sindoor was necessary because these terrorists came and wiped the Sindoor off the foreheads of 26 women.
Is Tharoor now a super spokesman of the Bharatiya Janata Party?
Our Prime Minister has made it very clear. Operation Sindoor.
Chaiwala selling Sindoor, says the Trinamool Congress. Operation Sindoor. Political war heats up. Indian Army gives out more evidence of precision strikes as political clash unfolds. Top focus on 5 Live. Good evening and welcome to 5 Live. I am Pooja Shali. Thank you for tuning in. While there is a united stage for all Indians, all members of parliament on the global stage in narrative warfare against Pakistan, but back home, bickering has escalated and in the eye of the storm is Congress MP Shashi Tharoor. We'll tell you more about that, and amid all of this, fresh videos emerging of precision strikes that have been done by Indian Armed Forces. All right, the top story of 5 Live this evening is about Operation Sindoor, but the politics around it. It's a political controversy while putting out a united forum, united face to the global stage. Operation Sindoor's envoy to the USA, even though he's an opposition leader, but Shashi Tharoor has not only, of course, praised India's strikes, but appears to have praised Prime Minister Modi as well, calling the Operation Sindoor a bold and symbolic move never attempted before. Sources have revealed that this has led to, while a lot of praise, appreciation, viral moments for the Congress MP, but his party, Congress, is not too happy with what's turning out to be what appears to be Shashi Tharoor's praise of Prime Minister Modi. In fact, they have said this appears to be chamchagiri of PM Modi. Tharoor said the operation sent a clear message to the world that the Sindoor that was wiped off from the grieving women's foreheads has been avenged with the blood of the terrorists. Observers say that this is in many ways similar to what Prime Minister Modi had also said, Sindoor ka badla humne le liya. Leading the charge against Shashi Tharoor is Congress leader Udit Raj, one of the first to have responded and said, super spokesman of the BJP is now Shashi Tharoor. He's saying he's going overboard and he's targeting the Congress party by saying that the BJP did so great.
Our Prime Minister has made it very clear. Operation Sindoor was necessary because these terrorists came and wiped the Sindoor off the foreheads of 26 women by depriving them of their husbands and their married lives. In fact, there were some women who cried out, the terrorists, kill me too. And they said, no, go back, tell what happened to you. We heard their cries, and India decided that the color of the Sindoor, that vermilion color on the forehead of our women, will also match the color of the blood of the killers, the perpetrators, the attackers.
सौगंध मुझे इस मिट्टी की, मैं देश नहीं मिटने दूंगा। मैं देशवासियों से कहता हूं, जो सिंदूर मिटाने निकले थे, उन्हें मिट्टी में मिलाया है। जो हिंदुस्तान का लहू बहाते थे, आज कतरे कतरे का हिसाब चुकाया है।
So, of course, remember at this juncture, the Congress party believes that he's being critical of the grand old party, the party from which he's the member of parliament, and going overboard when it comes to praising the Prime Minister of the country. Shashi Tharoor, remember, has been one of the most articulate voices, especially in the United States of America and Guyana and other countries as well. But here's what has happened. I want to tell you how this has led to perhaps at this juncture what he had said. In the recent times as well, the Congress MP has been quite vocal about his support and praise for Prime Minister Modi's initiative. So it's not the first time that he's appreciated the government or the incumbent Prime Minister, and different instances on your screens as well about how this has happened. Let's listen into one.
I'm still wiping the egg off my face because I was the one person in the parliamentary debate who actually criticized the Indian position at the time, back in February 22, on the well-worn grounds that Espen will understand, because he and I talked about all this in my UN days, that there was a violation of the UN Charter, that there had been a violation of the principle of the inviolability of borders, of the sovereignty of a member state, namely Ukraine, and we had always stood for the inadmissibility of the use of force to settle international disputes. And all of those principles, I said, had been violated by one party, and we should have condemned it. Well, a couple of years later, 3 years later, it does look like I'm the one with egg on my face, because clearly the policy has meant that India has actually a prime minister who can hug both the president of Ukraine and the president of Moscow 2 weeks apart and be accepted in both places.
So a short while ago, I had this exclusive conversation with Congress leader Udit Raj. Why is he angry? And it appears that Congress leaders like Pawan Khera, who's a national spokesperson, is sharing the view, reposting what Udit Raj has said. Here's what Udit Raj said to India today. Why is he upset? Why is he calling Shashi Tharoor the super spokesman of the BJP?
So how can he say that it never happened, that Indian government or Indian army never crossed LOC or international border before that? This is just factually incorrect, very, very much incorrect. And for that he should be rewarded either as a spokesperson, super spokesperson on BJP, or before he lands in India, he should be declared as a foreign minister. See, in a way that he is denigrating Congress.
So again, the question, is it just Udit Raj or are other leaders as much sharing this sentiment of Shashi Tharoor? And why I say that this is now more out in the open. Congress top brass, and I want to take you through some of the previous instances as well, where the top leadership believed that although the party nominated him, and twice, in fact, as chairperson of parliamentary committees, but his praise for even CPM in Kerala, from which he's a member of parliament, and Prime Minister Modi and the government on foreign policy is seen as crossing lines. Remember, Congress has been as much in a tussle with the left government and, of course, the BJP government. Then remember, a late entrant though, Tharoor's bid for Kerala Congress chief, the speculation that he wants to become at least Kerala Congress chief, that didn't happen, and that led to ruffled feathers as well. But then when he was appointed as the All India Professional Congress head, that there wasn't much impact, is what sources in the Congress party believe. And then amid all of this came in his praise, his articulate support, whether often for Prime Minister Modi or the Modi government or even the left parties, and that perhaps is sending out feelers. Is he not getting his due in the Congress party? Is he looking out? Does the Congress want him out? Will that happen, or will this rift come to an end? I have some big news coming out on that. Let's take a look at this breaking news. The Congress unease is clear over Shashi Tharoor, and while he's putting out the best foot right now with regard to the global stage on Operation Sindoor, Congress media cell head shares the post, social media post against Tharoor. That's Pawan Khera. Remember, he's one of the top national spokespersons. He's the social media cell head. So clearly one of the top voices. It cannot be just by himself. It clearly appears to be an endorsement of the top leadership. He has reposted on social media site X. Pawan Khera is sharing Udit Raj's comment. So throughout the afternoon, the speculation was if it's a random comment that Udit Raj as a Congress leader has made about how Shashi Tharoor is the top spokesperson of the BJP right now. But if this is being shared by what Pawan Khera has done, is that a reflection of precisely a larger Congress sentiment? Mosmi Singh joins me for the latest on that, closely tracks the Congress party. Mosmi, good evening. Tell me, what do you pick up from the Congress party? Are they miffed? Are they uneasy about how Shashi Tharoor is putting out this narrative? Because many would say he's speaking up for India.
Clearly, Pooja, Shashi Tharoor has been at it, and it's been brewing for over a period of some 1 or 2 years. You know, these intermittent praises of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Modi government. But you know, the recent past 2-3 weeks have been really troublesome for the Congress party, as it is at pains trying to drive home the points, the questions that it is raising on Operation Sindoor and the conduct of the Modi government on the home turf. Shashi Tharoor seems to be undoing all the damage that the Congress wants to cause, and his recent comments are way beyond the so-called Lakshman Rekha, which one leader reminded him of in a recent Congress Working Committee meeting, where he said that Mr. Tharoor has crossed the Lakshman Rekha. He was reminded about that, and just about weeks later, Shashi Tharoor does it again. So perhaps, you know, the distance between Shashi Tharoor and the Congress party here, I see, is increasing. Somewhere it's reached a threshold where Shashi Tharoor is completely taking a divergent line. You can go on foreign soil, talk about the unity of India, talk about being the opposition leader and how you're on one voice, you're on the same page as the government on Operation Sindoor, but to turn back the pages of time and say that time and again Prime Minister Narendra Modi has performed and I've landed with an egg on my face is like telling that the Congress party or the opposition parties are simply crying foul because they don't want Prime Minister Narendra Modi to shine, and he deserves a lot of praises. And that's why, you know, this has really unsettled the Congress leadership this time. We are told that the leaders, top leadership, is watching this very closely. Kerala
Mostly
elections
quickly,
also
watching
around the
only,
corner
or do we
next
expect
year,
perhaps
Pooja.
any disciplinary action,
Yes.
any sort of action that could be taken against Shashi Tharoor, or will that not happen? Because if the Congress is watching it, so is the BJP. Could they open their doors too to Shashi Tharoor?
Usually the stick is waged when you want a leader to be ridiculed or told that he's done something wrong.
Yes.
And, you know, put him on the mat. And so thereby the disciplinary action could be a possible trigger or a start to something more, you know, as far as Shashi Tharoor's ideological stand is concerned and which party he really belongs to. So I think that there is a dichotomy here, and Shashi Tharoor simply doesn't seem to be on the same page as the Congress.
Very interesting. Mosmi will keep tracking the latest on that. Are we looking at perhaps the clock ticking for Shashi Tharoor in the Congress party? Will they be able to settle this? Is he still an asset to the grand old party? We'll be tracking that and more. Mosmi, stay on with me, because what I want to now tell you is about Prime Minister's visit to North Bengal. It's just a day to go. But even before his visit, Bengal Minister, which is basically from the TMC, Udayan Goa, used some very strong words against Prime Minister Modi. I want you to listen in to what he said. He used a chai wala jibe and then a sindoor seller jibe.
কেউ কেউ আগে হয়তো চায়ের ব্যবসা করতেন, এখন তারা কেউ কেউ হয়তো সিঁদুরের ব্যবসা করছেন। আগে গরম চা বিক্রি করতেন, এখন গরম সিঁদুর তাদের রক্তের মধ্যে দিয়ে বয়ে যাচ্ছে। সেই সিঁদুর বিক্রি করবার জন্য একেবারে উত্তরবঙ্গের আলিপুরদুয়ার পর্যন্ত ছুটে আসছেন। কিন্তু আমার বক্তব্যটা হচ্ছে যে এইভাবে মানুষের মধ্যে বিষ ঢুকিয়ে দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করবেন না। মানুষের মধ্যে বিষ ঢুকিয়ে দিয়ে, ধর্মীয় বিষ ঢুকিয়ে দিয়ে মানুষে মানুষে বিভাজন তৈরি করবার চেষ্টা করবেন না।
Mosmi Singh continues to be with us. Mosmi, a united face on the global stage. Abhishek Banerjee, in fact, has been one of those articulate voices. But back home, such a remark. But how do you see this as a political discourse, Mosmi? You've been tracking all of these netas, irrespective of parties. But to say chai wala, selling sindoor now, I don't know what to make of it.
Pooja, there are two messages very clear with what the TMC leader has just said. One is that the battle on the home turf domestic politics will be a different ball game for the Modi
Yes.
government in the upcoming monsoon session. There's also a unity over a call for a special session within the opposition that is growing now. So they will have to confront those challenges. And secondly, you know, the TMC leader would be well remember that how dearly the Congress is, how dear it was for the Congress when Manishankar Iyer made that chai wala jibe and the Congress literally lost the Lok Sabha elections with the BJP building the entire campaign on that jibe. So it's often reaped rich dividends for the BJP and perhaps, you know, motor mouth leaders continue to make those remarks.
So at this juncture, this is what the TMC leader has said, saying Prime Minister Modi will divide Bengal. He's arriving here. But then to make a jibe like that, are you looking down at the chai wala, or are you saying that the Prime Minister is selling the sindoor with regard to the operation? All right, we'll be tracking that and more. And Mamata Banerjee has something to say about one of her minister's statements here. We have some news coming in. Let's take a look at that. Big exclusive coming up now on 5 Live. India Today accesses crucial details of the Justice Yashwant Verma inquiry report. This is huge. Remember the cash haul case to which the judge maintained he had nothing to do with it. He doesn't even know how the cash appeared in that cupboard that the emergency services had noticed. Now the top detail that had come in, the top finding from the inquiry report. Presence of cash undeniably established. It is piles of unaccounted cash. Nobody has been able to ascertain how much cash there was even which was found burnt. Now the burden of proof is on the judge to explain the presence of that cash. But this is where it proves to be trouble possibly for the sitting judge. Justice Verma, according to the special report, the preliminary inquiry report, that Justice Verma has failed in providing a plausible explanation regarding the source of cash. Remember, 3 judges. It was a top court appointed panel of sitting judges who have examined this case further, have said Justice Verma has not been able to provide a plausible explanation regarding the source of the case. He's not been able to give a proper clarification, explanation, and also there's been a flat denial. He's alleging conspiracy against him. But is alleging conspiracy enough? What evidence is he bringing to the table that at his home, in a storeroom, in a cupboard, there were piles of unaccounted cash? The staff of Justice Verma is instrumental in removing the burnt cash from the storeroom. Why was the storeroom in a covert and active control of the family? It's after all a storeroom. And that's where perhaps a lot of questions are unanswered. There are misconduct allegations that have come in. I'm talking about at least 1.5 feet high of stacks, currency notes from the storeroom, and that were found in this burnt condition. Several other findings I want to immediately bring in. India Today's legal editor Nalini Sharma for the latest on that. Nalini, take us through all the big findings of this inquiry report, and do you believe this could land the judge in trouble?
Well, Pooja, remember that since this entire case has happened and since the day that the video came out, when there was a press release issued by Chief Justice of India, Justice Sanjeev Khanna, we've been constantly reporting on this story, and a lot of these details have also been put out into the public domain earlier. But some of the crucial details that are emerging for the first time in this report, the details of which have now been accessed by India Today. Number one, it says that the witnesses who were examined by the inquiry committee have confirmed that there were not one but multiple stacks of cash that were found in that storeroom, right from the door of the storeroom till the opposite end. So the entire length of the storeroom, there were stacks of cash that were kept, and these stacks were at least 1.5 feet high, not only on the floor, but there were stacks also on the ledge. Another important point that has come out is that during the inquiry committee's interrogation of several persons, including the Delhi Police Commissioner, they had specifically asked the Delhi Police Commissioner as to why there was no FIR that was filed in the case, despite the fact that the cash had been found at that particular site. to which the Delhi Commissioner had replied that keeping in mind the legalities that are surrounding lodging an FIR against a sitting judge, which means that an FIR cannot be filed until and unless there is approval that is already given by the Chief Justice of India, is the main reason why the Delhi police did not go ahead and file the FIR. While at the same time, the report also says that the action or inaction done by the Delhi police is not within the scope of this inquiry, but this is something that has come out now. Another major revelation that has come out during these details is that there was a liquor cabinet that was present inside the storeroom which had liquor bottles in it, and when that liquor cabinet caught the fire, it was due to the liquor that was present inside the cabinet that the fire actually expanded and became a major fire, because of which a lot of the cash that was present in the storeroom had actually caught fire, which is why we saw the visuals of the half-burnt cash. So if it wasn't for the liquor cabinet, the fire comparatively could have been smaller, essentially because that liquor cabinet was specifically next to a switchboard. Along with that, the report also says that the burden of proof was on Justice Verma to prove where the source of this money had come from, and he completely failed in giving any details for it, and his misconduct is so serious that it calls for impeachment to be initiated against.
That's the big story. If that happens, it would be historic to say the least. Nalini, stay on with me. Nalini, and our India Today Legal Bureau is tracking every development. 14th March. Remember when the country was shocked when these half-burnt piles of cash, unaccounted, we don't even know how much money we are talking about here, was found from the cupboard at a sitting judge residence. Now remember, the judge has denied all the charges, but a major scandal has surfaced ever since. According to our sources, the government of the centre is weighing impeachment against the sitting judge. This is rare, but also a complex move. I want you to understand what could happen, what are the implications, procedure, and importantly, why an impeachment motion possibly against Judge Yashwant Verma.
A story shocking the very foundations of Indian judiciary. The Narendra Modi government is considering impeachment proceedings against Justice Verma, a sitting judge of the Allahabad High Court. This comes after a shocking discovery of cash at his official residence in the national capital during his earlier posting at the Delhi High Court. Sources tell India Today the impeachment motion could be moved in the monsoon session of Parliament if Justice Verma doesn't resign. Then, Chief Justice of India, Sanjeev Khanna, had written to the President and the Prime Minister recommending impeachment after Justice Verma refused to step down. A Supreme Court appointed committee of 3 judges from the Punjab and Haryana, Himachal Pradesh and Karnataka High Courts had indicted Justice Verma in its report to the CJI. Sources say the panel confirmed the cash was found in a locked storeroom used by Justice Verma's staff, and yet the judge pleaded ignorance.
CJI को चाहिए था कि वो कहते कि FIR दर्ज करो और इसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन फर्दर कि ये आया कहाँ से कैश, किस किस ने कैश दिया, ये सारा कुछ इन्वेस्टिगेट हो करके और फिर उनको जो है छुट्टी पर तो भेज ही रखा था और क्रिमिनल एक्शन होना चाहिए था और इम्पीचमेंट की प्रोसीडिंग साइड बाय साइड होनी चाहिए थी.
Sources say the government will take the opposition into confidence before moving the impeachment motion. But impeaching a sitting High Court judge is no easy task. Under Articles 1244 and 217 of the Constitution, the process is lengthy and politically sensitive. It begins with a motion of impeachment, backed by at least 100 MPs in the Lok Sabha or 50 in the Rajya Sabha. Once admitted, the Speaker or Chairman must constitute a special investigation committee. If the panel confirms proved misbehavior, the motion must then pass both the houses with a 2/3 majority of members present and voting. Only then can the President order removal.
Given the fact that everyone would be ad idem on the principle that corruption cannot be tolerated anywhere, keeping in mind the larger protections that are envisaged between the Constitution of India and therefore what are the steps to be taken which are correct in law and in procedure, we should be hopeful that no one would be ever covering up any act of corruption, certainly not the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and certainly not the judiciary, which would like no taint on it.
Justice Verma has rejected the Supreme Court panel's findings, calling them motivated and false. With the monsoon session just weeks away, the pressure is building, and India could be headed for a rare and unprecedented showdown in Parliament. Bureau Report, India Today.
So remember that the top court had appointed a panel. There were 3 judges. And this is from Punjab and Haryana High Court Justice, also of Himachal Pradesh High Court and Karnataka High Court. So clearly important, significant positions of judges who decided to investigate this further. We have the findings about what precisely appears to have been found in that panel. Let's take a look one by one. According to our sources, when Yashant Verma was questioned about the cash haul, a very basic information that deserved acceptance, denial or clarification, that there appeared to be a certain misleading info. What does that mean? Misleading info in the sense that there wasn't enough clarification that had come in with regard to what the sitting judge had to say. Now the staff was present there. He wasn't even there. That's what he said, that he doesn't even know where the cash came from. And the staff may have removed the cash after the fire. Remember 14th March when the emergency services personnel were told to come a day later. Burnt money was in a locked house, in a locked cupboard basically, and therefore what was it doing there, how did it reach, what is the source of all of these were asked but did not get a plausible explanation to the panel. The burnt cash the next day vanished. How did it vanish? Nobody knows. No clarity on the amount. So we don't even know how much of cash there was because the judge and the staff says we don't even know how the money appeared. Must remove Justice Verma. Basically, the panel is not convinced. They do believe burden of proof lies on the judge. They are not convinced with the answers that have come in. But you need to understand, when we talk about impeachment and from the highest authority in judiciary, it's not that easy a process. It has happened before, but I'll tell you the process. Impeachment motion needs the backing of members of parliament. 100 from the Lok Sabha, 50 Rajya Sabha MPs have to come forth to at least believe this needs an impeachment. So that's step 1. What happens after that? The Speaker in the Parliament, the Lok Sabha, will tell the Supreme Court to form an investigation panel of judges. After that, when of course that panel report has come, concluded, has been submitted, the government will nominate eminent jurists to investigate more and further with regard to the panel. So this is an elaborate process that comes in and brings in not just the members of Parliament, but also the judiciary. If found guilty, this is important. If all of this is clear, the Parliament voting takes place. That is, both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will have a voting if this judge needs to go. The motion needs to be passed with a 2/3 majority. Again, the highest number of the members of Parliament of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha have to vote and believe this judge has definitely indulged in misconduct and needs to go. And eventually, if that also happens, President orders a removal. Justice Verma is possibly set to face that impeachment motion. But will he clear it? What will happen? I want to bring in our legal correspondent Anisha Mathur for the latest on that. Anisha, tell us about the precedents in this case. How big, controversial is this? Because judiciary is still that one arm of this country which in many ways is still untouched. So you tell me more about this.
Well, Pooja, as we've been discussing, impeachment is not an easy task. We've seen at least 5 instances in the history of independent India where impeachment motions were attempted in the Parliament of India. Now, as you just mentioned, 100 Lok Sabha MPs or 50 Rajya Sabha MPs have to introduce that motion in the house that they belong to. We've seen instances coming in where V. Ramaswamy was the first judge in 1993 when an impeachment motion was brought in, but that failed to secure that majority. We saw Justice Soumitra Sen of the Kolkata High Court who resigned after the Lok Sabha. Before the Lok Sabha could consider the impeachment motion, but after the Rajya Sabha had passed the motion. We saw in 2015, once again, impeachment motion was attempted, but they could not get the adequate number of MPs to sign it. We also saw the entire process going through for Justice Gangile, who was accused in a sexual harassment case. In that particular case, we saw the motion being brought. We saw 3 different inquiry committees being created. But then in the meantime, it was found insufficient evidence was found, and therefore the motion was dropped. So there has been multiple instances where attempts have been made, but because of the requirement of the evidence, because of the requirement of consensus, it has not so far never happened that something like this has gone through the Parliament. But now what we are hearing from government sources is that the government is going to attempt to bring in this motion. We've been speaking to opposition MPs, we've been speaking to lawyers. It is going to be a difficult task to first bring in the motion with the adequate number of MPs, then have the inquiry committee, which needs to have a sitting Supreme Court judge, a sitting High Court judge, and a senior jurist who will be conducting this investigation. Then their report will come to the Parliament again, and then on that they will be voting. So we'll have to wait and see how and when this process is really initiated. The court has already done its job. The Chief Justice has sent the in-house inquiry committee report to the President. Now it's
I think this is incredible. This is unprecedented in so many ways. Yes, there have been motions, for example, and Anisha, thank you for that. Justice Deepak Misra's case in 2018, misuse of authority allegations was the last that we heard of. Rajya Sabha chair eventually rejected the motion, but there have been different judges for different reasons. Allegations of misconduct. Impeachment motion has come, or at least there was a possibility of it coming and being brought to the Parliament. But in each of these cases, for one reason or another, the motion was dropped. Now it is Judge Yashwant Verma. Could he be impeached if there is no clarity coming in? Because remember, after all, you're talking about judiciary. The one that gives out judgments is believed to be completely independent and cannot have allegations of misconduct as well. Amid all of this, Advocate and Member of Parliament of Congress Vivek Tankha has said no party will oppose, because this is an issue of serious corruption, at least the charges that he's facing. But the government has to share the inquiry report with all members of Parliament. Let's listen in to this conversation.
A serious motion, when you want it to be debated in Parliament, at least the material on the basis of which we are going to ask the Parliament to initiate the process should be known to us. It can't be just on television cameras or part of gossip columns. So I'm waiting for a reply on that. Just today, I saw one of the papers reporting at the front page news that the government wishes to initiate. But even if the government wishes to initiate, I'm sure it will have to inform its MPs about the material. Generally, when you don't want to show the report, then at least there should have been a high-powered investigation. And that high-powered investigation, which would have gone into greater details, would have given conclusive findings, which could have been the basis of initiation. Even that has not happened. I'm not aware if anybody has spoken to my party leaders, but nobody has spoken to me, or there are a lot of lawyers who are my friend MPs. None of them have been, there has been no outreach to them also. So maybe they will do it in the times ahead. Maybe they will do it when the Parliament meets. But as I said, we all hate corruption. We are all there for any move to fight corruption. There's no way we are going to shield any corruption. But before we initiate a serious move like a removal motion, the least that I expect from myself and any other thinking MP is, we should know the material on the basis of which we are signing the paper.
I will be closely tracking this development, remember, because it's not just about one sitting judge or another. It concerns all of India and our judiciary as much. 22nd April, Pahalgam terror carnage, a massacre that led to the loss of lives of 26 innocent men. The women left behind and told to tell the tale to Prime Minister Modi. That led to an immediate dip in the tourism in Jammu Kashmir, especially in the Kashmir Valley, where there was a direct impact. Now, as a result of that, while there have been investigations, there have been military strikes, the Chief Minister of Jammu Kashmir, Omar Abdullah, decided in a confidence boost measure to revive the tourism in Kashmir Valley, have back-to-back high-level meetings in Valley's top tourist spots, Pahalgam in South Kashmir, Gulmarg in North Kashmir. He convened the special cabinet meeting first in Pahalgam, not exactly in Baisaran, but in other parts of Pahalgam where the incident had taken place. And then also is focusing on tourism as a conflict-neutral economic activity. He said that the government is committed to insulate the tourism sector on which Kashmir heavily depends, and from violence and politics it should be kept separate. He chaired another meeting in Gulmarg attended by senior police and civil officials, including the IGP Kashmir and district officers. It's a symbolic outreach, of course, but it's a border strategy to not only project normalcy and that tourism will be revived, but also inviting people to return to Kashmir. Let's listen in now to this exclusive conversation that Mir Farid had with J&K Chief Minister Omar Abdullah.
उमर साहब, आप कल से ही लगे हुए हैं, कोशिश पूरी तरह कर रहे हैं, जो भी आपके हाथ में था आप कर रहे हैं. आपको लग रहा है कि कहीं जो है चेंज आने की पॉसिबिलिटी है? जिस तरीके से अभी जो लग रहा है कि यात्रा पे फोकस है, केंद्र की तरफ से ज्यादा जो है इस पे पहल नहीं हो रही है।
उम्मीद कहते हैं ना, उम्मीद पे दुनिया कायम है। हम अपने तरफ से जो इकदाम उठा सकते हैं हम उठा रहे हैं, जो हम कोशिश कर सकते हैं कर रहे हैं, बाकी ऊपर वाले तक है। हमारी कोशिशों में कोई कमी नहीं रहेगी। और वैसे भी अगर आप देखें तो हमारी कोशिशों के बिना भी गुलमर्ग खाली तो नहीं है। कल पहलगाम में भी मैंने काफ़ी टूरिस्टों से मेरी खुद मुलाकात हुई, यहाँ आज गुलमर्ग में भी। तो इससे हमें हौसला मिलता है कि हम सही रास्ते पे हैं। और 22 अप्रैल का जो हमला है, उस हमले के तहत हमारा मिशन जो है रुकेगा नहीं। जम्मू कश्मीर को तरक्की के रास्ते पे रखने पे, जम्मू कश्मीर में पूरी तरह से अमन कायम करने में और जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को इस अमन का फ़ायदा पहुंचाने में हमारा मिशन जो है वो डीरेल नहीं होगा।
और साहब काफी टफ बैलेंसिंग एक्ट आपके लिए, क्योंकि एक किस्म से ट्रिपल कंट्रोल है यहाँ पे। केंद्र सिक्योरिटी देख रहा है, फिर एलजी की एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है, यहाँ आप भी हैं, आपसे लोगों को काफी ज्यादा एक्सपेक्टेशंस है, इतना ओवरऑल मैंडेट था। इस वक्त कितना टफ आपको वो हो रहा है? क्योंकि अगर आपके पास सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशन भी होती, आपके पास पुलिस होती, तो ज्यादा बेहतर तरीके से टूरिज्म को जो है वापस ट्रैक पे लाया जा सकता। और जिस तरीके से अमरनाथ यात्रा और टूरिज्म को अलग अलग किया जा रहा है, आपको लगता है वो अक्लमंदी?
फिलहाल तो ठीक है। फिलहाल हमारी कोशिश रहनी चाहिए और उस कोशिश में कोई कमी नहीं आनी चाहिए कि अमरनाथ यात्रा जो है वो बिना किसी इंसिडेंट के वो मुकम्मल हो। हमारे तमाम यात्री जो हैं वो आएँ, सही सलामत वहाँ पे जाएं, अपनी हाज़िरी दें और अपने घर वापस जाएं। उसमें किसी तरह की कोई कटौती या किसी तरह की कोई कमी नहीं रहनी चाहिए। बाकी जहाँ तक आपने बात की कि अगर ये होता तो वो होता, चलिए ना, अगर मगर में तो बहुत कुछ हो सकता है। लेकिन फ़िलहाल जो हमारी असलियत है, हमें उस असलियत के तहत अपना काम करना है।
सर, आज भी जब कश्मीर की कोई खबर जाती है या हम भी जब कोई स्टोरी करते हैं, तो जो कमेंट्स उसमें आती हैं उसमें ज़्यादातर लोग कहते हैं बाइकआउट कश्मीर। एक नैरेटिव है जो बना है। आपको लगता है कि इसमें केंद्र का एक काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है? क्योंकि अगर वहाँ से एक मैसेज जाएगी तो बहुत कुछ बदल सकता है बहुत जल्दी।
केंद्र को पहले तो इसमें देखना होगा कि ये कौन से लोग हैं जो इसके पीछे हैं। शायद इसमें कुछ मार्केट फोर्सेस भी आ जाती हैं। उनको वैसे कश्मीर के खिलाफ कुछ नहीं है, लेकिन वो चाहते हैं कि दूसरी रियासत जो है वो प्रमोट हो कश्मीर के मुकाबले में। तो कभी कभार ये कम्पिटिटिव बिजनेस इंटरेस्ट भी जो हैं वो लोग सियासत का फ़ायदा लेते हैं। लेकिन तब भी मैं केंद्र हुकूमत और ख़ासकर वज़ीर आज़म साहब और उनका जो दफ्तर है, उनसे गुजारिश करूंगा कि अपने एजेंसीज़ वगैरह का इस्तेमाल करके पता करें कि ये कौन लोग हैं इस चीज़ के पीछे, और फिर उनके खिलाफ सख्त से सख्त जो है कदम उठाए जाएं।
सर, 48 गार्डन्स अगर आप बात करें अभी भी बंद है, तो एक कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी चीज़ हो जा रही है। क्योंकि अगर आप कोशिश भी कर रहे हैं, मेहनत भी कर रहे हैं, अगर उनको खोलना शुरू नहीं होना चाहिए?
48 डेस्टिनेशंस बंद नहीं हैं। कुछ जगहों में 48 छोटे पॉइंट्स बंद हैं। मिसाल के तौर पे गुलमर्ग खुला है, लेकिन गुलमर्ग का आउटर सर्कुलर रोड बंद है, तो वो एक पॉइंट बन जाता है। इसी तरह पहलगाम खुला है, लेकिन बेताब बंद है, तो एक पॉइंट बन जाता है। और ज़रूर मैं आपकी बात को बिल्कुल एंडोर्स करता हूँ कि बुरे वक्त में भी हमने ये जगहें बंद नहीं की। 96 जब इलेक्टेड गवर्नमेंट जो है वो वापस आई, तब से लेके आज तक मुझे याद नहीं है कि कभी भी हमने इन डेस्टिनेशंस को बंद किया। आज भी मुझे लगता है कि हमें थोड़ी सी हिम्मत करनी होगी, थोड़ा सा अपना वहाँ पे जो है अपनी प्रेजेंस बनानी होगी और इन जगहों को आहिस्ता आहिस्ता जो है हमें खोलना होगा।
So that's our exclusive conversation with the Chief Minister of Jammu Kashmir. Now, Mir Farid joins me from Gulmarg in North Kashmir, one of the most prominent international tourist destinations. Farid, it's the month of May, June. How is Gulmarg looking like this summer season? And I also have one more important question. It's all good what I see Chief Minister do. I understand his initiatives and motive. How is he going about it, trying to convince the local markets there? But there is a genuine concern, Farid. We are talking about whether it's Amarnath Yatra, Kheer Bhavani Mela or another tourist. Why would they at this juncture want to come to a Kashmir when the security is still questionable after Pahalgam massacre? So tell us about this multi-led initiative that he's attempting at.
Well, Pooja, you're absolutely right. In fact, we have to do a reality check here because I'm in Gulmarg right now. First, let me tell Muzaffar to show you
Yes.
what Gulmarg looks like. I was here 15 days back, but right now also it is deserted. Though I could find some tourists which are coming as a ray of hope. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there is no sync as of now on what the government of India is thinking and what Umar Abdullah is doing. Because our sources in the central government tell us that right now the focus is Amarnath Yatra, focus is to stabilize the security situation in Kashmir, and tourism as of now is not in the priorities of the Modi government. But Umar Abdullah is trying his bit. He has his local constituency, some high-end hoteliers lobby, and then the overall tourism industry, which has suffered a massive setback. So he's trying to show his presence on the ground. Yesterday he was in Pahalgam. Today we spoke to him in Gulmarg. He was optimistic. He's trying his bit, but he also somewhere down the line, I could sense this, that he also understands that while to a certain extent he can do certain things, but the overall messaging and the most important decision making and message has to come from the Modi government, which as of now it seems wants to first be doubly sure about the security situation on the ground, get feedback from the security agencies, be absolutely sure that there is no threat on the ground, which, Pooja, let me tell you, threat definitely exists, because if you have tourists being targeted in a way, you have the Amarnath Yatra, that can be a potential threat. And you have FTs in forest areas against whom operations are ongoing. So we'll have to wait till that security, that sense of security returns, until that happens. It seems that while Umar Abdullah here is doing certain things, Modi government's intention is quite clear, their roadmap is quite clear. Yatra first, stabilize security situation, and then maybe post-Yatra, once you have a successful Yatra, take it forward by having a roadmap for
so
revival
Amarnath
of
Yatra
Kashmir
July
tourism.
will be,
Pooja?
of course, the prominent focus here. Farid, thank you very much for getting us this ground report. Chief Minister Umar Abdullah putting out selfies to remind you how beautiful Pahalgam, Gulmarg has been. He's trying to reach out to the hoteliers, operators locally, convince them what can be done to invite more and more tourists at this juncture. But of course, remember, it's about tourists from other states who have to go to Kashmir. So I decided to look about what precisely is the impact. Remember, there's been a clear impact on tourism in Kashmir Valley. This is a holiday season. There have been mass cancellations. I decided to try and understand what is happening with the flight or the hotel prices. According to our information, many tourists have either postponed, they're calling off their trips right now with regard to understandable safety concerns, and therefore flight prices have dropped. And how? Let's take a look at some of the flight prices. And remember, usually this is the holiday season when there were, I would say, objectionable prices, 30,000, 20,000 rupees otherwise. Right now, Air India Express New Delhi to Srinagar is just about 5,800 rupees. Air India New Delhi price to Srinagar again has dipped about 8,000. All these prices that I'm quoting to you were at least over 15,000. Indigo, New Delhi, Srinagar, 9,000 rupees. SpiceJet, New Delhi, Srinagar is about 11,000. So there are, of course, different time slots, but primarily the price range hovering between 4 to 6 to 7,000 rupees. So there's definitely been a price dip when it comes to flight. But will people decide to nevertheless go to Kashmir? I leave it to the viewer to take that call and decide, looking at the security situation. But India Today also approached the tour operators to try and understand. There have been mass cancellations, as Kashmir hoteliers are telling us. How are people across Delhi, Mumbai, how are they reacting? Are there mass bookings or not? Listen in now to the tour operators from National Capital Delhi about the packages to Kashmir.
कश्मीर में पर्यटन अपने न्यूनतम स्तर पर है। जहां तक सवाल डिमांड का है, दिल्ली में अभी इस वक्त ना के बराबर ही कश्मीर का पर्यटन चल रहा है, जबकि फ्लाइट ने अपने फेयर्स कम करके रखे हैं, होटल्स ने अपने रेट कम कर दिए हैं, ट्रांसपोर्टर ने भी अपने रेट कम करके रखे हैं। मेरा यह मानना है कि आने वाले कुछ दिनों के अंदर कश्मीर की क्वेरीज भी शुरू हो जाएंगी और कश्मीर पुनः अपने पर्यटन के उस स्तर पर आने की कोशिश करेगा। कश्मीर को पर्यटक की और कश्मीर में पर्यटन की बहुत बड़ी आवश्यकता है।
हमारा जो कश्मीर था बहुत पीक पे चलता था और जो ये टाइम था पूरा कश्मीर का बहुत ज्यादा था कि बूम पे था पूरा ट्रेवल ये। बट कश्मीर में ऐसे अटैक हुआ, सब कुछ हमको एक्सपेक्टिंग था कि ऐसा सब कुछ होगा। ये टाइम था, स्कूल के बच्चों की छुट्टियां थी, सब कुछ था, लोग जाते हैं पर लोग अब कोई नहीं जा रहा, सबकी कैंसिलेशन, सबको जा रहा, सारा हमारे को बहुत सफर करना पड़ रहा है। अभी पहले जाते थे तो सेम इसी सीजन पे उनका रहता था 25 से 30 हजार पे एक बंदे का अप एंड डाउन, बट अब देख रहे हैं 4 हजार पे पर बंदा आ रहा है वन साइड का, मतलब 8 से 10 हजार पे बोथ वे आ रहे हैं का एक बंदे का आने का। इतना कम हो चुका है, तब भी वहां पे कोई जाना प्रेफर नहीं कर रहा है।
So perhaps more initiatives and some time will be required, a synergy again, to be able to revive tourism, because there is an understandable concern for now. So we'll be tracking how precisely and what happens in Kashmir Valley with regard to tourism. But I want to tell you about the latest fresh images that have surfaced about India's Operation Sindoor. The recently released satellite images, and these are released from the Indian Army officially, again remind to us the scale of damage that Pakistan has suffered. This is a reminder that more and more evidence daily are coming forth, revelations of what Indian armed forces, remember, achieved with precise, clear strikes on terror targets and military targets. A report for you.
ये सिर्फ आक्रोश नहीं है, ये समर्थ भारत का रौद्र रूप है। ये भारत का नया स्वरूप है।
The message is clear. Any act of terror will be treated as an act of war. During Operation Sindoor, India rained fire on Pakistan after the terror state tried to attack Indian military infrastructure in response to India's attacks on terror hubs. After Pakistan's misadventures, India, in multiple precision strikes, hit 11 of their air bases, making them completely dysfunctional. Bholari was one of the worst hit. The Indian missile strike on a particular hangar damaged one SAB 2000 AVAX and 3 to 4 Western origin fighter aircraft. India used indigenous BrahMos missiles to carry out strikes at this airbase. The satellite images show a hole in the hangar rooftop and major damage inside the hangar. Not just Bholari, other airbases including Murid and Noor Khan also sustained considerable damages. The satellite images show the impact of the missile strikes that made a crater of 3 meters on the ground. The munition impact was just 30 meters from a crucial underground facility, which could be a weapon stockpile. Another attack at the compound damaged a drone complex and other structures at the airbase. A similar sight was seen at the Noor Khan airbase, where earth movers were used to remove the damaged structures. Pakistan lost at least 35 to 40 personnel in these attacks. Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, on that note, I'm wrapping up the 5 Live. Thank you so much for tuning in.